very low wages and suspect labor conditions.
At the same time, China is facing a major military shakeup. Beijing says 2 of its top commanders are under investigation for serious violations of discipline and law. General Zhang Youxia, Xi Jinping's second in command, and Lu Zhenli, the military's chief of staff, both were considered close allies of Xi, now purged. Since last year, dozens of senior officers, including Xi loyalists, have been removed. China's Central Military Commission is now effectively down to 2 members from 6, including Xi himself. And opposition factions within the CCP remain strong. But for Taiwan, the instability raises concern as fewer voices may be able to challenge risky decisions in Beijing.
We will, of course, continue to closely monitor abnormal changes among the top levels of China's party, government, and military leadership.
Right now, Taiwan is bracing for a possible military attack from China. Last month, the Trump administration approved an $11 billion arms sale, the largest ever to Taiwan. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Thank you, Jack. And coming up, a former Canadian Olympic snowboarder pleads not guilty while facing charges of running a massive international drug trafficking operation.
And a young filmmaker says schools are shaping more than academics. We spoke with him about what he saw growing up and the questions his documentary raises about education today. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Food. It fuels our bodies, nourishes our spirits, and brings us together. Because we all need nutritious food to thrive.
Food gives me energy and it also helps me focus.
But not everyone knows where their next meal is coming from. And 1 in 7 people in America face hunger. It's tougher than ever for too many of us. But the simple truth is, ending hunger is possible, and it starts with you. Call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, to help families in your community facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. Your monthly gift delivers food where it's needed most, puts fresh food on the table, and helps kids have healthy meals all year round, even when school is out.
You can see the difference with the kids when they're full. Food is everything.
Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org. Give $19 a month. Your first gift can double an impact. And we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag as a reminder of how you're helping to end hunger for good.
When it comes down to it, it's about taking care of your family first and the loved ones that you need to provide for.
Food donations help me tremendously, and I'm very grateful for the food bank.
I have hope.
The simple truth is, ending hunger in America is possible. You can help make it happen. The need is urgent. Call or go online now to helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had 0 chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. I'm Carrie Dunst. If you're just joining us now, here are some of today's top headlines. A massive winter storm gripped much of the country, and it's finally winding down after days of dangerous cold, snow, and ice. 30 people have died nationwide. Hundreds of thousands still remain without power, and cleanup efforts are just beginning as forecasters warn another storm could hit parts of the East Coast this weekend. And a federal appeals court has sided with the Trump administration. It's lifting limits on ICE officers in Minnesota. The ruling allows agents to detain protesters and use non-lethal crowd control tools. And President Trump says White House border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota. Homan will meet with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey today as part of the federal response. And big tech heads to the court this week as Meta, TikTok, and YouTube all face claims that their platforms deliberately addict and harm children. The LA trial centers on a 19-year-old plaintiff and could set the tone for thousands of similar lawsuits nationwide, with companies denying wrongdoing and arguing that existing safeguards do protect young users. Those are this morning's top headlines. With that, Steph, over to you.
Thanks, Carrie. And as tensions mount over ICE operations in Minnesota, lawmakers are calling on DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to testify publicly. And one Democrat breaks ranks with his party as many refuse to fund ICE. NTD's Melina Weiskup reports.
Several Democrats on Capitol Hill are pressing to impeach the DHS secretary following the second fatal shooting in Minnesota.
We're always going to need border enforcement at the southern border, but we absolutely have to dismantle Trump and Kristi Noem's version of ICE.
Amid the pressure, Republicans have summoned Secretary Noem to testify before Congress. Noem has not shied away from critics, instead swiftly agreeing to appear as a public witness. She's repeatedly defended her leadership in the ICE operations.
I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers.
She's agreed to testify on March 3rd before the Senate Judiciary Committee. This comes as lawmakers return to Capitol Hill today. Democratic leadership is leading the party to oppose the funding for the DHS and ICE. It's part of several funding bills expected to be brought up later today. One Democrat yet again breaking ranks. Senator John Fetterman described himself as a pro-immigration Democrat as he revealed his stance in a statement writing, "I reject the calls to defund or abolish ICE." He added that he strongly disagrees with many strategies and practices ICE deployed in Minneapolis and believe that must change. Though he says he supports an idea to separate ICE funding from the broader funding package, but Republicans are unlikely to make that change. Senators must approve several funding bills by Friday to avert another partial government shutdown. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Federal officials have referred to Minnesota to the Justice Department over alleged civil rights violations.
The case is tied to the state's policy that allows boys to compete in girls' sports.
The referral comes from the Departments of Education and Health and Human Services. They conclude last year that Minnesota violated Title IX's prohibition on sex-based discrimination in federally funded education. That decision came last year. Education Secretary Linda McMahon says Minnesota is putting the safety of women and girls at risk and denying them fair competition.
HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the federal government will not look the other way when girls' legal protections are denied. The investigation found a boy competing on girls' varsity sports since 2023, and that includes softball, volleyball, track, and skiing. The Education Department said a voluntary resolution agreement was offered to state officials, but they refused to negotiate. The Epoch Times reached out to the Minnesota High School State League for comment.
Meanwhile, Ryan Wedding, a former Canadian Olympic snowboarder, pleaded not guilty yesterday in a Southern California federal court. He faces charges of running a massive international drug trafficking operation and orchestrating multiple murders, including the killing of a federal witness. Federal prosecutors say Wedding led $1 billion criminal enterprise responsible for moving more than 60 tons of cocaine from Colombia through Mexico and into the United States and Canada. Authorities allege the drugs were transported by boats, planes, semi-trucks, with large quantities stored in Southern California before being distributed north. Wedding was arrested last week in Mexico after a year-long international manhunt and was recently added to the FBI's 10 most wanted list. FBI Director Kash Patel compared him to a modern-day El Chapo and Pablo Escobar. Wedding remains in federal custody without bail and is scheduled to return to court on February 11th, with trial set for March 24th. In today's education system, what are students really learning? Knowledge and character, or perhaps something else? A new documentary by filmmaker Miles Vasilius explores that question. The Great Indoctrination, it's called, and it looks at how modern education is shaping students' values and thinking.
NTD recently spoke with Vasilius. He explains why he believes debates over education are now unfolding across schools in North America. Let's have a look at that.
Our schools are in crisis.
For filmmaker Miles Vasilius, the Great Indoctrination is rooted in what he saw growing up and in questions he began asking as a student. He says education has drifted away from its original purpose, helping young people pursue truth and build character.
The modern education system is raising them to be cozy with socialism. When we removed God, basic morality from our school system, people started not studying for the sake of pursuing truth, goodness, and beauty, but studying for the sake of trying to get a good job.
He says that shift has fueled confusion over identity, truth, and morality, turning classrooms into an ideological battleground.
And if you look around, we're in a state of chaos. Students can't identify what gender they are. Students don't know what truth is. Truth is relative. Moral relativism is cancerous, and it's this idea that there is no truth.
In that environment, he says education loses its foundation, and that protecting a child's development ultimately falls to the parents, not the state.
You as a parent have the fundamental right to guard, to raise, to protect everything, feed and develop and nurture and grow your children, not the government.
Vasilius also argues that when communist ideology enters classrooms, it can distort how young people view responsibility, hard work, and opportunity.
And here we are as university students favoring this ideology that has killed hundreds of millions of people in China and elsewhere. It's sick, it's evil. Yeah. Communism is a classless and moneyless society. And the idea that you don't have to work hard to provide, that entrepreneurship is bad. We need more jobs in the economy. Well, it's like, someone has to create jobs. Instead of socialism, I would say become an entrepreneur. Build jobs for society. It's very difficult, but it's worth it. That's what we need here more than ever in Canada.
The film cites a 2020 National Association of Scholars report on alleged CCP influence in North American education, including Confucius Institutes. It also notes warnings from Canada's intelligence service, CSIS, and it points to growing public awareness.
There are a lot of people waking up and realizing, I think Gen Z is becoming a very traditionally minded generation that is saying we've had enough of the wokeness, we've had enough of the ideas that have got us into the crisis we're in, and so it does need to be eradicated and it needs to be fought back against, especially in our schools.
In 2025, the killing of Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, underscored how intense the debate over education has become, and it deeply affected Vasilius.
As a high school student, he inspired me and millions of others being so young, and I hope people will realize the battle that is currently being fought then for truth in our schools. Because he founded Turning Point USA, and their entire mission was fighting back the ideology that's trying to take over our schools. We need now more than ever for brave people like Charlie Kirk to step up and to say enough is enough. We're going to take back our schools, and we're going to take them back to return to the classics, to the pursuit of truth, goodness, and beauty.
Optimistic because the Great Indoctrination goes beyond raising concerns. It invites viewers to reflect on the purpose of education and the direction being set for the next generation. NTD News, Canada.
And you can view that at Pelican Plus, a streaming platform. Next, is there money out there with your name on it? Real money, not a scam?
I sure hope so. Well, apparently, states sent back about $4.5 billion in unclaimed cash last year alone. Millions of Americans also have retirement money. It's sitting in old jobs that they forgot about.
Wow.
Founder of Midland Financial, Lawrence Sprung, joins us for what you can do about it.
And Super Bowl 60 is around the corner. This year, it returns to Silicon Valley after 10 years. Local leaders are preparing to get football fans to the game safely and smoothly. We'll have that story for you and more ahead.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural, organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure, natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Welcome back to NTD. Good morning. The Internal Revenue Service announced the opening of the 2026 tax filing season yesterday.
Hooray? I'm not sure.
Hooray.
The White House said in a statement yesterday that millions of Americans, they're set to receive significantly larger tax refunds this year. Okay, hooray.
So the Treasury Department estimates that they'll average $1,000 more per household.
That's because many filers didn't adjust their withholdings when recent income tax breaks began.
A new law boosts the individual standard deduction by $750 and twice that for married couples.
It also expands state and local tax deductions. It gives a new break to some seniors as well.
And if you've ever moved, changed jobs, or switched banks, you might have cash sitting in a government database right now. Old refunds, forgotten deposits, unchecked uncashed checks, or even a retirement plan from a past employer. The best part, you can search safely in minutes using official sites and you don't have to pay anyone to do it. Joining us now for insight and some instruction is Lawrence Sprung, founder of Midland Financial and the author of Financial Planning Made Personal. So good to have you with us this morning. Lawrence, it's always a tasty subject and something we can action right away. How do people find out if they have unclaimed property?
Yeah, it's so easy. So the first thing I want to say before I tell them where to go is if somebody reaches out to you and tells you that they will do it for you and charge you, Do not do that. Immediately go online. So there are official sites that you can go look at. For example, missingmoney.com is official, free search backed by the state's unclaimed property programs. You could also Google, free unclaimed property and then put in your state. You put in your name and information and it will do a search. And I highly recommend checking multiple sites sometimes because, it should be across the board, but make sure you're checking on, missingmoney.com is a top one, as well as unclaimed.org. And you might be pleasantly surprised.
Very good point there about the security, going straight to the source. Those are official sources. How many people have unclaimed property?
Yeah, so in 2024, states returned almost $4.5 billion. That's real money going back to real people. And if you think about it, that is a large amount of money that goes unclaimed. But if you think about it, every time you move, you change banks, it's money that could potentially be left behind. I found a old security deposit for an apartment for a family member. Their name popped up when I was searching, and it was something that they totally forgot and was never returned to them.
Oh, incredible. Well, there you go. It may be yours all along and you just didn't know it. So any tips for finding out if you have really old or forgotten property, something, say, just you really could have lost way back when that you'd think you would never recover?
Yeah, so I think the important thing is check any name that you've gone by that may have been on official record with a vendor, a bank, an apartment, anything of that sort, because, you want to search if you're a woman, you may want to, you should definitely search your maiden name, search via old addresses, and also look at even some common misspellings, because you may not even realize that when you open that account or set up that situation where that money was left behind, the utility bill, they may have misspelled your name. So check common misspellings as well, and you might find something that you didn't expect as well.
Yeah, and what about money from past jobs you've had? What kind of thing, how does that even happen that you leave money behind?
Yeah, so it's a new phenomenon because, many years ago, people went to work for the same company. They worked there 30, 40 years, they retired, and then they had their pension options, et cetera. Now we're seeing, people really jumping from job to job, and something that gets lost in the mix could be their 401k account or pension money from old jobs. And it's estimated that there are almost 30 million forgotten 401k accounts that total about $1.65 billion. I mean, this is big money. So, if you've changed jobs and you didn't move your 401k, or you weren't sure if you had one, there's ways to search for that too and see if there's lost retirement plan money behind as well.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of pension money, it's possible for people to have some kind of leftover pension money.
Yeah, if they didn't start cashing it out and they weren't notified, now if you leave a job or you leave an employer and you had a balance under $7,000, the employer could essentially push that money out of the plan. One of the reasons why they implemented that is to prevent people from forgetting those monies behind. But, the government finally came up to speed. They created their own website to help people track down old workplace retirement plans, because this has become a huge problem. So if you've worked for somebody, you want to even check, maybe you feel like you've taken care of all your retirement money just fine, but it might be worth inquiring. Go to lostandfound.dol.gov. That's lostandfound.dol.gov. And that's where they're putting a listing together of old pension and retirement plans.
Great. And so we've got 3 websites now that you've recommended: missingmoney.com, unclaimed.org, and lostandfound.dol.gov. Lawrence, as we're looking at this subject of tidying up your finances, checking around for anything, that missing change or, spare change lying around in a sense, what other tips do you have for folks out there who just want to get things in order? There's got to be a few other steps, I'm sure, that perhaps folks generally don't put into practice?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, if there's money out there that you weren't aware of, you should be looking. So, after they watch your show today, they should go do these searches and take a look. They could be pleasantly surprised. But, as we're in the new year, it's a great time to look at what you are doing proactively, and review your income, review your budget. That is probably one of the biggest killers for most people from a financial perspective is budget creep, meaning that, they had a budget 2 years ago and now their budget has increased and they're really not sure where the money's going. That's something that you really want to look at as an annual basis to make sure that your budget is in line. And then look, if there's money left over each month, make sure you're allocating that to an area that's going to be helpful to you, whether that's your emergency savings account, an education fund, or even a retirement account that'll help you for your future.
And so many folks out there, as you said, are not doing that. And one reason, maybe it just sounds so dull. And I just think having this reminder for such a crucial thing is so useful. And I'll be taking note too. Thanks so much. Lawrence Sprung, good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Super Bowl 60 is less than 2 weeks away. The big game is being held in the San Francisco Bay Area.
NTD's David Lamb has more on how Silicon Valley is preparing.
Silicon Valley is preparing its transportation and safety measures to ensure a successful Super Bowl 60 on Sunday, February 8th. It's being held in Santa Clara at the Levi Stadium. Carolyn Gonot, CEO of the local transit system, says they started planning 2 years ago.
In less than 3 weeks, VTA will be moving record-breaking crowds to one of the biggest sporting events on the planet, Super Bowl 60, right here at Levi Stadium. Today is about excitement, preparation, and confidence because VTA is ready.
The local transit system expects to carry 25,000 people to and from the stadium and has made improvements such as eliminating slow zones. San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie says the California Highway Patrol will be deployed to help local law enforcement during the days leading up to the big game.
All of our teams have been preparing for months. We are ready, we are coordinated, and we are confident that we will provide a safe, welcoming experience for our residents and our visitors.
Super Bowl 50 was held in Silicon Valley 10 years ago. From expanded transportation and increased safety and security measures, local leaders are revamping for the influx of football fans to watch the game between the Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Great report. People are excited. You have like a tale of two quarterbacks. You've got Drake May. He's the young gun. He's got nothing to fear. He's only second year in the league. And then on the other side for Seattle, you got a veteran, a crusty veteran who's been all around the league, a journeyman. It's very exciting. There's all kinds of storylines, but it's exciting. For sure.
All right, well, we do have to wrap up our show for now, but if you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, make sure you send us an email at goodmorning@ntd.com. We always love to hear from you.
That's right. And for Round the Clock original news coverage, watch us live at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. I'm Carrie Dunst.
I'm Stephanie Cox.
There's cultures that have been lost, but this culture hasn't been. The artist is showing us our sense of who we are, where we came from. You look at his hat. His hat is knitted probably by a man because a man traditionally knitted the hats. That hat tells you the story of who this person is, what his place in the culture is, the animals around him. Everything's all contained in the messages in the hat. And the tool that he's carrying over his shoulder. This is a centuries-old tool that has been able to rework the mountains. Those traditions are invaluable, and if we don't honor those traditions, then we're rootless. The artist is showing us the value of maintaining our culture and respecting our culture.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Welcome to NTD Good Morning.
Here are today's top stories. As the major winter storm comes to an end, it's left at least 30 people dead across the country. What's next for states and communities affected by the storm?
Federal appeals court lifts the limits on ICE tactics in Minnesota. They're siding with the Trump administration. And border czar Tom Homan heading to Minnesota. He's going to meet with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey.
Lawmakers call on DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to testify as tensions mount over ICE operations. This comes as Republicans scramble to avert a government shutdown as Democrats protest funding ICE, with one Democrat breaking ranks.
The National Transportation Safety Board is holding a hearing today. They're highlighting what led to last year's deadly mid-air collision near Washington, D.C.
Meta, TikTok, and YouTube are heading to court this week. They're accused of deliberately fueling addiction in children for profit and harming their mental health.
Super Bowl 60, it's around the corner. This year, it returns to Silicon Valley after 10 years. Local leaders are preparing to get football fans to the game safely and smoothly.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters in New York City, here are Stephanie Cox and Carrie Dunst.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Today's Tuesday, January 27th. You're watching NTD Good Morning. In today's top news, that winter storm has much of the country in its grip is finally coming to an end.
That's right. The storm left 30 people dead, and the big cleanup is just underway now.
Very tragically.
Around two-thirds of the country face another night of below freezing temperatures as a massive winter storm finally comes to an end. At least 30 people died across the country in states afflicted with severe cold. The death toll includes 2 people run over by snowplows in Massachusetts and Ohio. Fatal sledding accidents killed teenagers in Arkansas and Texas. In Kansas, police found a woman's body covered in snow after she was last seen leaving a bar. In New York City, officials said 8 people were found dead outdoors over the frigid weekend. According to PowerOutage.com, there were still more than 560,000 power outages in the nation Monday evening, most of them in the South. In Nashville on Sunday, Lisa Patterson, her husband Bill, and her 7-year-old dog Hershey were rescued from their home by a police officer after fallen trees blocked their driveway and cut power to their home. They tried to stick it out with their wood fireplace, but the temperatures were too cold.
We've had several ice storms up there, but none of them even knocked my power out. And I've been snowed in up there for like almost 3 weeks without being able to get up and down my driveway because of the snow. And I'm used to that. I prepare for that. But this was unprecedented.
In Mississippi, officials are warning that damage cleanup and power restoration could take a week or more after the state faced its worst ice storm in more than 30 years. Governor Tate Reeves said in a briefing Monday that he's deploying 500 National Guard soldiers by Wednesday to remove debris and control traffic.
We are trying to make sure that we can time this to get resources wherever they are needed as quickly as is humanly possible, but to do it in a safe way so that we don't put more Mississippians in danger.
In Little Rock, Arkansas, businesses are trying to get back on their feet after being paralyzed by the storm. A local foreman spent 2 hours Monday to open 2 parking spots and an entrance using heavy equipment.
Right now we're trying to get companies back open to where they can operate. Some of it's been a little tricky right now because of course the sun is shining on it and making it very slippery right now.
Economists and meteorologists are trying to get a handle on the disruption caused of winter weather disasters. Small businesses like Tacos El Gordo, a local food truck, are feeling the impact.
We usually get a lot of people from the bases and from the local businesses around, usually around lunchtime. But we've had to close not only for people's safety, but also because everybody who works in landscaping or outside aren't able to come and get their lunch or anything like that.
In the nation's capital Monday, National Guard members were seen shoveling a snowbound bus free. The system dumped about a foot of snow on the East Coast and left roads frozen slick with ice. New York City saw its snowiest day in years, with 11 inches falling on Central Park. Mayor Zohran Mamdani said Monday the storm has passed, but danger remains, especially to the homeless living on the streets.
Outreach teams are only intensifying their efforts today to connect vulnerable New Yorkers to shelter. This is an all-hands-on-deck effort, and I continue to ask New Yorkers to call 311, which will route these calls to 911 as it is a code blue, whenever they see someone who may require assistance.
Now, an update on the private jet crash at Maine's Bangor International Airport.
The Federal Aviation Administration says 7 people died and 1 was seriously injured. Officials have yet to release their identities.
The private jet carrying 8 people crashed during takeoff Sunday night. The aircraft flipped over and caught fire amid heavy snow in the region.
The private jet is registered to a personal injury law firm in Houston, Texas. The firm has been silent on the accident so far.
The FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board are investigating. In an audio recording from air traffic control, someone can be heard saying, quote, "Aircraft upside down. We have a passenger aircraft upside down." And that message came about 45 seconds after the plane was cleared for takeoff.
The airport's director said first responders arrived less than a minute later. Bangor International will remain closed until at least noon tomorrow.
And now we'll look at the latest on ICE operations in Minnesota. A federal appeals court yesterday sided with the Trump administration, allowing ICE officers to detain protesters and use non-lethal munitions and crowd control tools.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the ruling. It reverses a lower court decision that had barred officers from taking such actions without probable cause first.
Judges said the Department of Homeland Security made a strong showing that its challenge is likely to succeed in court on the merits of the case. The 3-judge panel noted video evidence showing the difficulty federal agents face. Many protesters get in officers' faces and block their vehicles, then rejoin the crowd, mixing with those who are merely observing or recording. Attorney General Pam Bondi applauded the ruling, writing, "A liberal judge in Minnesota tried to handcuff ICE agents who are enforcing the nation's immigration laws and responding to obstructive and violent interference from agitators. This DOJ will protect federal law enforcement agents from criminals in the streets and activist judges in the courtroom." Orders Our Tom Homan is heading to Minnesota. President Trump wrote on Truth Social that Homan is tough but fair and will report directly to him. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem called Homan's deployment good news for peace, safety, and accountability in Minneapolis. She said his experience will aid wide-scale fraud investigations and help remove violent criminal illegal immigrants from the streets. And President Trump said he had a very good phone call yesterday with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and that the two leaders are on a similar wavelength amid unrest in Minneapolis. Walls called the conversation productive, emphasizing the need for impartial investigations into the shootings in Minneapolis involving federal agents. He also reiterated his call to reduce the number of federal agents in the state. President Trump also said he had a very good phone conversation with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. The Democrat has been critical of the federal government's immigration enforcement surge in the city. Trump said lots of progress is being made and that White House border czar Tom Homan would meet with Frey today. Frey said he appreciated the conversation and that he expects that some federal agents will start leaving the city. The mayor said he would continue pushing for all federal agents to leave. Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security Tricia McLaughlin responded to speculation that Commander-at-Large of the U.S. Border Patrol Gregory Bavino was fired. McLaughlin denied any dismissal, saying Bavino is a key part of the president's team and a great American. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Thank you, Daniel. And as tensions mount over ICE operations in Minnesota, lawmakers calling on DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to testify publicly.
And one Democrat breaks ranks with his party as many refuse to fund ICE. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
Several Democrats on Capitol Hill are pressing to impeach the DHS secretary following the second fatal shooting in Minnesota.
We're always going to need border enforcement at the southern border, but we absolutely have to dismantle Trump and Kristi Noem's version of ICE.
Amid the pressure, Republicans have summoned Secretary Noem to testify before Congress. Noem has not shied away from critics, instead swiftly agreeing to appear as a public witness. She's repeatedly defended her leadership in the ICE operations.
I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers.
She's agreed to testify on March 3rd before the Senate Judiciary Committee. This comes as lawmakers return to Capitol Hill today. Democratic leadership is leading the party to oppose the funding for the DHS and ICE. It's part of several funding bills expected to be brought up later today. One Democrat yet again breaking ranks. Senator John Fetterman described himself as a pro-immigration Democrat as he revealed his stance in a statement writing, "I reject the calls to defund or abolish ICE." He added that he strongly disagrees with many strategies and practices ICE deployed in Minneapolis and believe that must change. Though he says he supports an idea to separate ICE funding from the broader funding package, but Republicans are unlikely to make that change. Senators must approve several funding bills by Friday to avert another partial government shutdown. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
And now information from a Fox News investigative report. It examines how a complex network of socialist and communist groups could be behind the escalating Minnesota protests.
They're being called a nationwide protest operation. NTD's Arlene Richards has more details on that.
As President Trump sends border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota, a Fox News report reveals a complex network of far-left organizations that it says are behind agitators mobilized to interfere with ICE agents in Minnesota. The report released Sunday by Fox investigative reporter Azra Nomani details how a national network of socialist, communist, and Marxist-Leninist cells in the United States used encrypted signal messages to actively track ICE agents. Nomani states that based on her review of the messages in real time, anti-ICE rapid responders quickly mobilized on the scene where armed protester Alex Preddy was killed even before any shots were fired. FBI Director Kash Patel said on Monday that rioters in Minneapolis have been conducting organized attacks even before the Preddy incident. In an interview, he discussed what law enforcement found in a protester's vehicle earlier this month.
In that vehicle was not just firearms, which thankfully we recovered, but was information about law enforcement, federal agents, and their personal information. Individuals used that personal information on the ground to issue threats of life against not only FBI agents, but their wives and their children.
Nomani states in an X post that the network is well funded. She identifies one of the funders as Neville Roy Singham, an American-born billionaire living in China. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And in a major development in the Middle East, Israel says it has recovered the body of the final hostage from the Gaza Strip.
Meanwhile, the U.S. military has announced that an aircraft carrier and other warships have deployed to the Middle East amid tensions with Iran. NTD's Jason Perry has the update.
The Israel Defense Forces on Monday said they recovered the body of the last hostage from the Gaza Strip. Israeli troops sang their national anthem around the remains of Israeli police officer Ron Gavili. Many people see Gavili as a hero because he gave his life during the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th, risking his life to fight terrorists and save others. Gavili's father was seen outside his family home on Friday, wiping tears from his face, before police escorted him to a ceremony in southern Israel to welcome back his son's body. Gavili's family later addressed the media, and Gavili's sister said she wanted to thank President Trump.
Mr. President, when you look at our eyes and you said, we're going to bring Ron home, and you promise us, and we believe you, and we're thankful for this, and I want to thank for everyone who helped us.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made the announcement at Israel's parliament.
My friends, members of the Knesset, just a short while ago, we brought back Ronnie Gavili, a hero of Israel. There are no more hostages in Gaza.
And he said it was time for people to remove the yellow ribbons they had been wearing for 2 years, which signified there were still hostages in the Gaza Strip. A resident in Israel explained the difficulty of the mission to find Gavili's body.
In a bunch of you never know what it is, and they find him and identified him and they bring them back home.
And now that the remains of the final hostage have been returned, this could pave the way for a limited reopening of the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt. In another development, the U.S. military has announced the deployment of an aircraft carrier and other warships to the Middle East. This comes amid tensions with Iran over its deadly response to protesters in the country. However, Iranian authorities unveiled a mural in Tehran which depicts attacks on an aircraft carrier. The caption in both English and Farsi reads, "If you sow the wind, you will reap the whirlwind." Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson on Friday said Iran possesses, quote, extraordinary defensive capabilities. And he added that Iran will respond fiercely and comprehensively against any aggression or threat. Jason Perry, NTD News.
And thanks to Jason for that report. The sudden downfall of two of China's most senior military leaders has fueled speculation that Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping is entering a decisive and potentially destabilizing phase of internal power consolidation within the Chinese Communist regime. Joining us for analysis is Dr. Keith Naughton. He's co-founder and principal at Silent Majority Strategies. Keith, thanks for joining us. China's Ministry of National Defense announced that Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli were under investigation for, quote, serious violations of discipline and law. What are your thoughts on these charges?
Well, we know that there's an enormous amount of corruption at all levels in the Chinese government and in the CCP. That's been the case for decades. But we also know that Xi is engaged in a multi-year effort to consolidate power. So how much of this is really cracking down on corruption? How much corruption is there behind this? And how much is this Xi just sort of wiping out any possible internal opposition or any other centers of power? It's probably a combination of both, but it's a very dangerous consolidation of power within the CCP, which for all its faults under its previous leaders has had a bit of a collaborative system since the downfall of Mao, but now we're in one where we've got an old man, isolated, consolidating power that's very dangerous.
Yeah, and as you say, it's almost like trying to decipher hieroglyphics, understanding what the announcement is and what's actually happening with no functioning free press. Now, as you mentioned, Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping, he rewrote China's term limits. He's the first since regime founder Mao Zedong to have a third term. Yet a few months ago, China insiders were saying that Xi had suffered a stroke and that with the struggling economy and the civil unrest, that he had lost his grip on the country and he was on his way out. Has he now enjoyed some sort of a resurgence?
Well, I think that might have been some propaganda on his part. That might have been some misdirection that he had sent out. Might have been a strategy to flesh out some of his opponents, making himself appear weak. Allows others maybe to come forward who are trying to oppose him, and then so that he can nab that faction. It's like you said, it's very inscrutable. It's sort of like back in the old days of the Cold War Kremlinology. It turns out that the West had very little understanding what was going on in the Kremlin and the Soviet Union, even less in Mao's China. We're back to that age where I think it's very difficult to figure out exactly what's going on. What we do know is there are only two people at senior level in charge of the Chinese military. It's Xi and one of his assistants, who's probably just a yes man right now. We don't know what kind of controls there are. We don't know what kind of checks and balances there are on the use of military force, on the use of force domestically, on the projection of power internationally. It's a very dangerous time because we really don't know what's going to happen and the decision she's going to be making.
And Keith, how has the Trump presidency affected the inner workings of the regime and Xi's decision making?
Well, I think it's shocked him at times because Trump is, he's got a very aggressive posture, but he's changes his mind from time to time. I mean, he reacts quickly to defense, or excuse me, he reacts very quickly to changes in the international situation. He's much more aggressive than past presidents. And I think one thing that the president's adopted has been try to keep his opponents off balance. And I think that can be a problem at times, but it can also be a significant advantage. I don't think the Chinese know exactly what he's going to do. I think his aggressive actions in Venezuela have shown that the Chinese and the CCP have to think very carefully about how aggressive they are, certainly in the Western Hemisphere, and the success of that American military operation, which, you know, our equipment barely got dented in the whole operation, has to concern him, considering the corruption in the PLA, considering that the PLA has not been involved in significant military activities in combat in decades. He has to wonder how they would perform in a fight against either the United States or against American armed allies.
Yeah, you bring up a very interesting point because that anti-aircraft technology was supposed to be both Chinese and Russian, and it performed miserably, as you point out. Overwhelming success in that operation. I wanted to pivot a bit, Keith. So the Chinese regime has been threatening to invade Taiwan despite never having ruled the democratic Chinese neighbor. And that ramped up significantly under Xi, this threat of invading Taiwan. This past weekend, American climber Alex Honnold, he free soloed Taipei 101, and it was broadcast live on Netflix in 5 languages, including Mandarin, and subtitled in another 5 languages. Netflix doesn't release their viewership, but unless you were living under a rock, you pretty much the entire world either watched this or they heard the news. And how does such a positive media moment for the often little heard from democratic Taiwan play with the regime, considering, you know, narrative and script control is so important to their unconventional warfare tactics?
Well, I think they hate that. I mean, anything where people are doing something independent in Taiwan, where people are able to engage in sort of free activity and free association, are engaged in creativity, all things that are stifled on the mainland, I think are a problem for the regime. So I think it's a victory for him. I wouldn't do it. I don't think I could look down for that. I couldn't help myself from looking down for that long, which I think is a downfall. You got to keep looking up the whole time you're climbing. So quite an accomplishment by him. But it leads to another point. I think that as a free society, it has certain strengths that can never be achieved by a society that's dominated from the top down, that's dominated by the CCP. So I think it's a helpful propaganda victory. And I do think that this turmoil in the military on within the PLA, within the Chinese leadership, I think it's going to buy Taiwan some breathing time, but we still have to watch and be very careful because the ultranationalism hasn't stopped and it won't stop for some time.
Yeah, all the news coming out of Taiwan from this hemisphere is really just about this threat of invasion. So it was shocking to see such a cultural moment in the Taiwan flag flying and sort of this friendliness between the West and Taiwan in something that had nothing to do with the typical narrative. And just as we finish up, Keith, I just want to get your view as what you think might happen next as it relates to the regime's internal power struggles.
Well, I think she's going to continue to clear out people. Maybe he might go down to the lower levels if he feels that he's wiped out enough of the senior leadership. But, there's a problem for him. Paranoia doesn't stop once you've wiped out your rivals. You've got to replace them with other people. And I'm sure some of that paranoia will return when he elevates others. And I think they know that. I think he's going to be elevating a lot of yes men. I think they're going to be echoing his thoughts. And one of the unspoken dangers of where Xi has become over the last 5 years is how isolated he is. And is he really getting accurate information about the economic problems in China, about the problems within the PLA, how deep the corruption and problems in the military are? And that's very dangerous. When you have someone who doesn't understand the full scope of problems that you face, they can make miscalculations, and a miscalculation by China, especially in Taiwan, could be very dangerous for everybody.
You make a great point illustrating the dangers of having someone with so much power without a real sense of, if he's surrounded by yes men. Dr. Keith Naughton, thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
And we saw the National Defense Strategy published just this week, and the focus is still very much with China, though they've shifted a little there. Keeping that in mind, of course, all the way along. Coming up, the National Transportation Safety Board is holding a hearing today highlighting what led to last year's deadly mid-air collision near Washington, D.C.
And President Trump says the U.S. will be increasing its tariffs on South Korea following the country's delay in approving the 2025 trade agreement with the U.S.
Meanwhile, Meta, TikTok, and YouTube will stand trial this week in L.A. They're accused of fueling addiction in teens and harming their mental health. That and more ahead.
Hi, my name is Brady. When I was born, my parents thought everything was okay. My mom and dad were so excited to take me home.
I still get goosebumps telling this story. Several days in, his skin started to become very cold and clammy. We noticed that he had become blue around his mouth, and something was just very off.
We packed out as fast as we could. Brady stopped breathing twice on the way to the pediatrician. And that was one of the number one things that just haunts me to this day.
I was born with a congenital heart defect called aortic coarctation. If my parents waited just one more hour to drive me to the hospital, I would not be here today. But thanks to research funded by the American Heart Association, I had heart surgery that saved my life. But not every kid is as lucky as me, which is why we need your help. Just call the number on the screen or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help. Get people trained in CPR. Get more hospitals certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. And help fund the next medical breakthroughs to help save kids like me.
When you donate to the American Heart Association, you're helping save lives like my son. And now my son is happy and healthy thanks to the support of people like you.
When you call with your $19 a month, you'll get this really cool t-shirt as a thank you. Many children die from congenital heart defects. I can't wait to grow up to become a heart surgeon and fix babies' hearts, but until then, I'll keep helping the American Heart Association. So please join me. Just call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org to become a monthly donor and help save lives.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
Welcome back to NTD. Good morning. President Trump, he's set to visit Iowa today, where he will stop at a local business, and he's going to deliver remarks on affordability, the economy, as well as energy policy.
Next, the National Transportation Safety Board is holding a hearing today to highlight what led to last year's deadly midair collision near Washington, D.C.
Collision killed 67 people, and it was the deadliest plane crash on U.S. soil going back to 2001.
The NTSB will elaborate on what factors played the biggest role in the January 2025 crash. It will also make recommendations for what should be done to prevent similar tragedies from happening.
The NTSB has already spelled out many of the key factors that contributed to the crash. They include a poorly designed helicopter route past Reagan Airport, and the fact that the Black Hawk was only flying at 78 feet higher than it should have been. It also says that the FAA ignored warnings in the years leading up to the crash, as well as the Army turning off a key system that would have broadcast the helicopter's location more clearly.
The FAA made a number of changes soon after the crash to ensure that helicopters and planes no longer shared the same crowded airspace around the nation's capital.
Families of the victims have said they hope today's hearings will lead to meaningful changes. They say they will continue to put pressure on officials to act.
Now heading to news about big tech, which many companies heading to court, facing claims that social media platforms are harming children's mental health.
That's right. The companies behind Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube will all stand trial this week in Los Angeles over accusations that their platforms deliberately create addiction in children.
So this trial could become a turning point for thousands of similar lawsuits nationwide.
At the center of the case is a 19-year-old who says social media addiction from an early age exacerbated her depression as well as suicidal thoughts.
Their lawyers say these companies deliberately embedded an array of design features aimed at maximizing youth engagement to drive advertising revenue.
The companies dispute these claims that their products deliberately harm children, and they have also cited a number of safeguards that have been added over the years. They're arguing that they're not liable for content posted on their sites by third parties.
Meanwhile, France is moving toward banning teens under 15 from social media. The country's National Assembly backed the social media ban yesterday amid growing concerns over online bullying and mental health risks around the world. The bill now goes to the Senate before a final vote will be heard in the House.
That's right. President Emmanuel Macron, he's urging France to follow in the footsteps of Australia. Australia banned social media for kids under 16. That went into effect back in December.
Macron is pointing to social media as a factor for violence among young people. He wants the ban in place in time for the start of the next academic year, September.
That's right. The European Parliament, they've called for the EU to set minimum ages for children to get access to social media, although it's up to the member states to actually enforce those age limits. Now, Texas is taking new steps to protect its citizens from the Chinese Communist Party, as well as other hostile foreign actors. The Lone Star State is expanding its list of technologies that are prohibited for use by state employees. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said, quote, "Rogue actors across the globe who wish harm on Texans should not be allowed to infiltrate our state's networks nor devices." Abbott added shopping platform Shein and Temu and the business-to-business marketplace, Alibaba, as well as several more technologies. He's added those to the Texas block list. The governor established the Texas Cyber Command in June of 2025 with the signing of a state House bill and a $135 million investment. Abbott accused what he called hostile adversaries of harvesting user data through AI as well as other applications, putting Texans at extreme risk, according to him.
The U.S. is looking to boost its domestic rare earth mineral production. USA Rare Earth has announced a major financing deal worth $1.6 billion with the Department of Commerce. The package includes a secured loan and federal funding. USA Rare Earth says it's also lined up an additional $1.5 billion in private equity funding. The company says it expects to begin commercial mining operations in Texas by 2028. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright says his department will also partner with USA Rare Earth. Wright said yesterday that expanding domestic mining, processing, and manufacturing capabilities will create good-paying American jobs and safeguard national security. As part of the deal, the government will receive equity and warrants in the company. USA Rare Earth's stock rose sharply after the news of the deal broke. And President Trump says the U.S. will begin increasing its tariffs on South Korea from 15% to 25%.
Yeah, this comes after the South Korean legislature, they failed to enact the 2025 trade agreement with the U.S.
In a post on Truth Social yesterday, the president said the country is not living up to its deal with the United States.
The two countries had reached that deal last October after Trump's meeting with President Lee Jae-myung.
Under it, Trump tariffs were set at 15%, and the Asian nation had agreed to invest $350 billion in U.S. manufacturing.
South Korean leaders have signaled they're still working through the full economic ramifications of that agreement. The South Korean finance minister said earlier this month that investment may not be possible until the first half of this year because of weakness of South Korea's currency.
As concerns over Iran persist in the United States, voices north of the border are growing louder.
On Sunday, large crowds gathered again in downtown Vancouver, Canada. They were rallying in support of Iranians who oppose the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei's rule. They're urging international action, including calls for military assistance. Let's have a look at that.
On Sunday, Iranian Canadians and supporters gathered at Vancouver's Torch Plaza, holding moments of silence to honor those killed in protests in Iran, as they denounced the violence carried out under Iran's leadership.
The people inside of Iran are killing by regime, and they attack people with army weapons and chemical weapons. It's over than criminal. It's over than genocide.
The repression, the suppression, the mass murder have been extremely concerning, unprecedented. It actually goes behind authoritarianism, and what you're actually witnessing in Iran is state criminality.
Protesters held signs and chanted slogans, voicing support for those still protesting in Iran and calling for the removal of Iran's ruling leadership, demanding freedom for the Iranian people.
We are here to end this regime, and I believe we can do it and change the regime after 47 years, hopefully.
We are going to fight for you as much as we can to have any chance of saving as many people as we can. We want them to have freedom of choice. We want them to be able to pick their new leaders. We need reform.
Rally participants urged countries around the world to strengthen sanctions and support those continuing to resist inside Iran.
The regime happens to be the largest sponsor of terror worldwide. The regime's assets abroad must be frozen. Its access to its ships that operate undercover in international seas, that must be blocked. The ways that the regime is able to generate proceeds for basically fueling its criminal machinery, all of those must be blocked. The regime's machinery of repression must be eliminated, must be dismantled, and that can only happen by military intervention.
NTD News, Canada.
Up ahead, is there money out there with your name on it? Real money, not a scam.
I hope so, right? States sent back actually $4.5 billion in unclaimed cash last year alone. Millions of Americans also have retirement money. It's sitting in old job accounts that they forgot about. But fortunately, founder of Midland Financial, Lawrence Sprung, is going to join us for what you can do about it.
I can't get a hold of my mom.
I'm sure it's nothing.
I've called her 5 times.
I'm sure she's fine.
Is Grandma okay? Help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
Don't worry, ma'am. We're sending help right now.
Hello?
Hello, this is Life Alert. Your mother had an emergency, and we dispatched paramedics to her home.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
She had a fall, but don't worry. She is safe, and the paramedics are helping her right now.
Thank you.
Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes. With one simple touch of a button, Life Alert sends help immediately. Whether it's to report a fall, a medical emergency, or an intruder, Life Alert sends first responders fast.
For a free brochure, call 800-382-9846. 800-382-9846. That's 800-382-9846.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week. Still couldn't pay the bills. Skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. You know, I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. I'm Carrie Dunst. If you're just joining us now, here's some of today's top headlines. A massive winter storm that gripped much of the country is finally winding down after days of dangerous cold, snow, and ice. 30 people have died nationwide. Hundreds of thousands remain without power, and cleanup efforts are just beginning as forecasters warn another storm could hit parts of the East Coast this weekend. And a federal appeals court has sided with the Trump administration. They're lifting limits on ICE officers in Minnesota. The ruling allows agents to detain protesters and use non-lethal crowd control tools. And President Trump sends White House border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota. Homan will meet with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey today as part of the federal response. And big tech heads to court this week as Meta, TikTok, and YouTube all face claims that their platforms deliberately addict and harm children. The LA trial centers on a 19-year-old plaintiff, and it could set the tone for thousands of similar lawsuits nationwide, with companies denying any wrongdoing. They're arguing existing safeguards protect young users. Those are this morning's top headlines. With that, Steph, over to you.
Thank you, Carrie. And if you've ever moved, changed jobs, or switched banks, you might have cash sitting in a government database right now. Old refunds, forgotten deposits, uncashed checks, or even a retirement plan from a past employer. The best part, you can search safely in minutes using official sites, and you don't have to pay anyone to do it. For more insight, I spoke with Lawrence Sprung, the founder of Midland Financial and the author of Financial Planning Made Personal. Take a look. Lawrence, it's always a tasty subject and something we can action right away. How do people find out if they have unclaimed property?
Yeah, it's so easy. So the first thing I want to say before I tell them where to go is if somebody reaches out to you and tells you that they will do it for you and charge you, do not do that. Immediately go online. So there are official sites that you can go look at. For example, missingmoney.com is official, free search backed by the state's unclaimed property programs. You could also Google, free unclaimed property and then put in your state. You put in your name and information and it will do a search. And I highly recommend checking multiple sites sometimes because, it should be across the board, but make sure you're checking on, missingmoney.com is a top one, as well as unclaimed.org. And you might be pleasantly surprised.
Very good point there about the security, going straight to the source. Those are official sources. How many people have unclaimed property?
Yeah, so in 2024, states returned almost $4.5 billion. That's real money going back to real people. And if you think about it, that is a large amount of money that goes unclaimed. But if you think about it, every time you move, you change banks, it's money that could potentially be left behind. I found a old security deposit for an apartment for a family member. Their name popped up when I was searching, and it was something that they totally forgot and was never returned to them.
Oh, incredible. Well, there you go. It may be yours all along and you just didn't know it. So any tips for finding out if you have really old or forgotten property, something, say, just you really could have lost way back when that you'd think you would never recover?
Yeah, so I think the important thing is check any name that you've gone by that may have been on official record with a vendor, a bank, an apartment, anything of that sort, because you want to search. If you're a woman, you may want to, you should definitely search your maiden name, search via old addresses, and also look at even some common misspellings, because you may not even realize that when you open that account or set up that situation where that money was left behind, the utility bill, they may have misspelled your name. So check common misspellings as well, and you might find something that you didn't expect as well.
Yeah, and what about money from past jobs you've had? What kind of thing, how does that even happen that you leave money behind?
Yeah, so it's a new phenomenon because, many years ago, people went to work for the same company. They worked there 30, 40 years, they retired, and then they had their pension options, et cetera. Now we're seeing, people really jumping from job to job, and something that gets lost in the mix could be their 401k account or pension money from old jobs. And it's estimated that there are almost 30 million forgotten 401k accounts that total about $1.65 billion. I mean, this is big money. So, if you've changed jobs and you didn't move your 401k, or you weren't sure if you had one, there's ways to search for that too and see if there's lost retirement plan money behind as well.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of pension money, it's possible for people to have some kind of leftover pension money.
Yeah, if they didn't start cashing it out and they weren't notified, now if you leave a job or you leave an employer and you had a balance under $7,000, the employer could essentially push that money out of the plan. One of the reasons why they implemented that is to prevent people from forgetting those monies behind. But, the government finally came up to speed. They created their own website to help people track down old workplace retirement plans, because this has become a huge problem. So if you've worked for somebody, you want to even check, maybe you feel like you've taken care of all your retirement money just fine, but it might be worth inquiring. Go to lostandfound.dol.gov. That's lostandfound.dol.gov. And that's where they're putting a listing together of old pension and retirement plans.
Thanks so much, Lawrence Sprung. Good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.
The Internal Revenue Service announced the opening of the 2026 tax filing season yesterday.
Yay!
Yay.
Taxes. The White House said in a statement yesterday that millions of Americans, they're set to receive significantly large tax refunds this year.
So what this means for you, the Treasury Department estimates that they'll average $1,000 more per household.
That's because many filers didn't adjust their withholdings when recent income tax breaks began.
A new law boosts the individual standard deduction by $750 and twice that for married couples.
It also expands state and local tax deductions, and it gives a new break to some seniors.
So take note.
And up ahead, the Super Bowl 60. It's around the corner. This year, it returns to Silicon Valley after 10 years away. Local leaders are preparing to get football fans to the game safely and smoothly. We're going to have that story. We'll be right back after the break.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
I was a young dad of 3 amazing kids. I was finally following my dreams. Just when you feel like life is starting to come together, you get kind of hit in the face. I was born with a congenital heart defect and had open heart surgery as a kid. I was supposed to go to the heart doctor once a year, and I finally went. He listened to my heart, and I'll never forget, he sat back and he said, yeah, it's time for open heart surgery, or you risk your aorta rupturing, and that's it. I was scared out of my mind. The night before my open heart surgery, I made a goodbye video for my kids. Be strong, take care of your mom. I love you guys.
Seeing, all the kids hug him goodbye and hoping that they were going to be able to hug him again.
I love you. But I did make it, thanks to the work of the American Heart Association. So that's why I'm asking you to join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help get the next person trained in CPR, get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care, as well as fund the next medical breakthrough like these heart valves that helped save my life. When you give $19 a month with your credit card, we'll send you this special t-shirt to show you're a part of our community of monthly donors.
I'm most grateful that I get to have a husband that I get to grow old with, and a husband that gets to be there for his children.
I believe without the American Heart Association, I would not be here today. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody. Your donation can literally help save a life. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor.
In times of uncertainty, technology for humanity matters more than ever. Ganjing World utilizes technologies to promote kindness, respect, and trust among people. Subscribe to GJW Plus. Enjoy over 10,000 movies and shows. Ganjing Kids, the #1 safe platform, value-based learning and fun for kids. Be part of technology for humanity. Subscribe now.
Welcome back to NTD. Good morning. Frigid temperatures can affect the body in many ways, but they can be especially hard on your heart.
If you have underlying medical conditions like heart disease, high blood pressure, experts say to avoid exertion in the cold weather. Here's more information on that.
Whether it's shoveling snow or de-icing your car, winter weather can be hard work, especially for your heart.
You're going out into very chilly weather, which it could also be a very different climate than you're accustomed to, so a stressor to the body, trying to do something that's incredibly physically challenging.
Dr. Tamana Singh with Cleveland Clinic says in the cold, our bodies are also working to maintain core temperature, straining the heart as blood vessels constrict. Blood pressure and heart rate both rise. For those who already have heart problems, it can be dangerous. dangerous.
This is why we tend to see a number of heart attacks or cardiac consequences when people are shoveling snow or doing a lot of heavy effort, high intense work in cold weather or snowy conditions.
To protect your heart, Singh says not to underestimate the weather. If you go outside, dress in layers and wear sweat-wicking clothing. Cover areas that lose heat like ears and your head. Put on thick wool socks and gloves.
Put in some breaks if you're shoveling. Ask for some help. If there's a better time of day to do some of that shoveling, like under the heat of the sun, I would certainly advocate for that.
And be aware of red flag symptoms, including chest pain or discomfort, jaw pain or tightness, and general unease. Singh says if something feels off, get inside and call 911.
I definitely encourage all of my patients to be safe rather than sorry in these situations.
Yeah, some great tips there. Now turning to sports news. Super Bowl 60 is less than 2 weeks away, and the big game is being held in the San Francisco Bay Area.
NTD's David Lamb has more on how Silicon Valley is getting ready to play host.
Silicon Valley is preparing its transportation and safety measures to ensure a successful Super Bowl 60 on Sunday, February 8th. It's being held in Santa Clara at the Levi Stadium. Carolyn Gonat, CEO of the local transit system, says they started planning 2 years ago.
In less than 3 weeks, VTA will be moving record-breaking crowds to one of the biggest sporting events on the planet, Super Bowl 60, right here at Levi Stadium. Today is about excitement, preparation, and confidence because VTA is ready.
The local transit system expects to carry 25,000 people to and from the stadium and has made improvements such as eliminating slow zones. San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie says the California Highway Patrol will be deployed to help local law enforcement during the days leading up to the big game.
All of our teams have been preparing for months. We are ready, we are coordinated, and we are confident that we will provide a safe, welcoming experience for our residents and our visitors.
Super Bowl 50 was held in Silicon Valley 10 years ago. From expanded transportation and increased safety and security measures, local leaders are revamping for the influx of football fans to watch the game between the Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Very exciting. Certainly the biggest tentpole in American events. World Cup is bigger globally, but nothing is bigger than the Super Bowl. And this year, there are a lot of plot lines. I think the one that I'm most interested in is sort of the tale of two quarterbacks. You got the young buck. It's his second year in the NFL versus Sam Darnold with Seattle. He's a journeyman. He's embraced a lot of adversity in his career. A golden opportunity for both of them. And then people want to see, will New England establish a second dynasty after Tom Brady? Drake May, younger than Brady when he went on his big run. So a lot to look out for. I'm very excited.
Some high stakes
Yeah,
there.
that's
All right. Well, that's all we have time for right now. But if you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at goodmorning@ntd.com. We would always love to hear from you.
And for round-the-clock original news coverage, you can watch us live at ntd.com/live, or as always, use our NTD app. That's the best way. Thanks for watching. I'm Carrie Dunst.
I'm Stephanie Cox. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television.